Hello and welcome, everybody. I hope my mic is on and you're looking at the right screen. My name's Ethan, and tonight I'm joined by Pastor Keith Castleberry for Pastor Talk. It's a weekly series that we do at Tuesday night, 8 o'clock. We're glad that you've joined us. The first question, we do have a question as always. The question is this: what is your favorite self-defense tool? Your favorite self-defense tool? We want you, as always, to keep the comment section rolling. We love seeing you guys.
Series that we do.
That was me.
Got
Sorry.
his audio over there. We love seeing you guys in the comment section. So why don't you blow it up tonight? Let us know, what is your favorite self-defense tool, or maybe your most proficient, something like that you think you're really good at. If you had to, say if the police were defunded where you live, what do you do? So let's think about that. Favorite self-defense tool, if there was no such thing as a police department, what do you do? So let's see the comments.
If you're willing to defend yourself,
Sure.
I mean, there are pacifists, and I'm not saying that as a curse word. There are pacifists in the world, so
Right.
there might be people that don't want to defend themselves, don't feel any obligation.
Right. So the first question, what is your favorite self-defense tool, and what would you do if there was no police department? What would you do? So what would you do?
That's good.
Many of you live in the city, you live in town, in apartment complexes, that kind of thing, where you are neighbors with several hundred people within, say, a quarter mile. Some of you are in the suburbs, some are in the country. So this may look different for different people. What is your favorite self-defense tool? Are you proficient at anything in regards to self-defense? Have you prepared? Is there anything that you would like to do in preparation for self-defense? Any aspirations? So let's keep those things in mind tonight as we talk. As always, keep the comment section rolling. We do have several topics we're going to discuss tonight, and that would be money. We all like money. We want to use it that's one tool. You might could use it as self-defense. I don't know. Money, we have ethics and hard times.
It's possible.
And we're going to talk a little bit about self-defense. So we see a 9mm. So we got one person telling us what they're going to do. Anybody else? What are you going to do? What are you going to use? What is your self-defense tool? Pastor, why don't you greet everybody and let us know about your day?
All right. Oh, wow, my day. Let me tell you this first. I think my go-to self-defense tool is my wife, number one. I'm just kidding. No, I'm playing. First of all, I think the Taurus Judge or the Smith & Wesson, what is it called? I forgot what it's called. That, 410 caliber pistol with buckshot. Dude, that's incredible. Okay, so let me tell you about my day. Indicative of our age, it's been a crazy day. I found out today about midday, somebody stole all of our mail out of our church mailbox.
From the church? Oh, my
yes.
goodness.
They said it was just yesterday, but I got to talking to our secretary, Janie Votal, come to find out it's been happening for a while. Well, the sheriff's department called me because they know me, and I've dealt with them several times about stolen vehicles and just common knowledge. I'm not a criminal, so that's not because of that. And I've dealt with a few of them in other areas. But anyway, so they call me, and I'm like, well, yeah, we haven't had a problem. But and they said, yeah, you have. We're going to get you your mail after we process it, dust it for fingerprints. I went by the church about 30 minutes later, checked the mail, and our mailbox was stuffed full of mail to other places across the county. It wasn't even like our next door neighbor. It was people in town, people in Bryan. It was crazy. I don't understand that. But I did. One of the topics we're going to talk about today is ethics, and this was actually a topic I was going to talk about before this happened. But it's obvious that amidst all this problems that we're having, the ethics of society, and we've always had problems with that. But it's just, I think it's going to be revealed more and more. So anyway, that was just one of those things. And then on top of that, talking about weird things that happened to me today. And like I said, indicative of the age we live in, I had to make the hard choice of our church schedule for the next week or so. It's kind of
That's tough.
strange. You don't,
Yeah.
that's weird. You know, you don't see that coming.
In all these years, changing a church schedule used to be a big, long, drawn out
Major thing.
Okay,
right.
we're gonna make
Yeah.
a change, and this change may last us 20 years, 10 years, whatever. Now
Yeah.
we're looking at week to week, which is unheard of prior to this time.
Yeah, we used to make, move the piano in the church
1 inch at a
quarter
time.
inch at a time.
Yeah.
And now we're having to make these crazy changes, and it's hard on
Right.
me because I know the spiritual care that I want to give the church and the mental health care that I want to give the church. Literally, that's part of. I don't mean to be weird, but I'm a very holistic pastor. I want
Sure.
to see everything. I want to see people blessed and mentally, spiritually, and physically blessed. So it's a weird time we live in. But anyway, that's
Definitely.
my day. That's my
Well,
day.
we've got a lot of good comments in the comment section. Seems like a lot of people prefer firearms in our church.
Our church people should.
I didn't see nunchucks. I didn't see a sword. I didn't see. There's a lot of things I haven't seen, but I have seen 12 gauge 9mm. I even saw 12 gauge or a Mossberg with salt pellets. That would be interesting.
Yeah.
So, anyways,
Yeah.
but yeah, someone even said they could start a neighborhood militia. And I'm not wanting anybody to reveal what their plans are if things go crazy, but it is something worth thinking about, and maybe that's something we can talk about tonight. Obviously, from a Christian perspective, so we're going to throw a little bit of that in there. And we've mentioned a few of the topics, and if you just got on and you're wondering what we're talking about, I opened up with a question, and it was this, and you're feel free to put it in the comment sections. What is your preferred method of self-defense? Are you going to pull out some Taekwondo? Are you going to do some Krav Maga? What are you going to do? And so anyways, put that in the comment section, and we're going to start with the first topic of discussion. Pastor, why don't you lead us into that while they keep the comment section rolling tonight, as always. And feel free to throw in a question here or there. We'd love to bring it up. So just let's start with that, Pastor.
Okay, hot topic off the top of my mind because I had to deal with it today. I had to research it today, and that is the COVID. What do they call it? Surge right now.
Right.
It's crazy. I read today in the last 24 hours that California, Texas, and Florida, all three had over 6,000 cases of COVID. Now, the thing about that, and that's just most recent update. I think Texas almost had 7,000. 6,975 people. So overall, all the states together reported 44,000 new cases. But the death rate, the hospitalization rate is going up, but the death rate is going down. And I think that's very interesting because we now know that about 2/3 of the cases of COVID contagion is in that 18 to 40-year-old range. It's those that are out and about.
Invincible.
Yes. They don't think it's going to hurt them, and if they do get it, it's no big deal to them. Thankfully, I think we've learned, I'm not positive we have, but thankfully that has not been transmitted a lot into our elders. So I really think that protecting the most vulnerable in our society, in the church even, is very important. But that is something that I saw on COVID. In fact, there's a website. I actually found it on Twitter and followed them there, but they have a website called covidtracking.com. And it says COVID current hospitalizations saw their biggest jump since April the 21st. But the death rate is steadily going down. And I think, we hear on the media this big, it's bad. And I think that they're trying to motivate people to get back to where they're more diligent in their care and their concern. Because from what Scott Goodman sent me, and you, in fact, sent us both an article yesterday, and it's Texas government counting every COVID positive hospital case. Anybody that goes in the hospital, no matter what they're there for, and they test for COVID, they count them as a COVID patient. But a lot of people have, multiple reasons for being there, and COVID is their least. but they're still counted as a COVID patient. But in that article, the CEO of Houston Methodist literally said this: quite frankly, we're concerned that there is a level of alarm in the community that is unwarranted right now. That's Houston Methodist. And
Right.
and this really surprised me. He said that this time last year, 12 months ago, their hospital ICU capacity was at 95%. And he said, basically, and I'm paraphrasing all this, basically they have a flexibility to their ICU that will allow them to expand or contract it greatly. And he just really kind of took the air out of that balloon or bubble, whatever it is.
The fear sphere.
Fear sphere. There you go. Now, another thing that I did some research on, I kept hearing about this guy by the name of Peter Hotez, and he's a Baylor College of Medicine professor in Houston. I did a little research on him. Come to find out, first of all, he's probably one of the biggest critics. Like I said, I kept hearing his name, seeing his name on this most recent surge, and he's like the biggest critic of anything the government has done. Abbott, Trump.
And what was his name again?
Has done anything. Hotez, Hotez. Peter Hotez. I don't know. Anyway, come to find out, he's got this big, big critic. He's a criticizer of everything we do. But come to find out, he has an agenda, and he has a book he's trying to sell. And so what I noticed was every time he would get on these TV shows or whatever, every time he was like, my book. And I'm like, oh, man. So he's promoting fear here by my book. It's just aggravating, I think this is the deal, and we're going to get into the finances and all that kind of stuff. This is the deal. There's no denying that the impact of COVID on our world, there's no denying that, whether it's the fear factor or fact, whether it's fact or fear, it's obviously making an impact. And the death and the hospitalization and all that stuff is obviously there. But now, because of people, and I don't want to say that they're crying wolf, because I don't think that's happening. I think it's legitimate. We're having a surge. That's legitimate. But if you talk to these hospital directors, and what I hear directly from our ICU nurses, I say directly, secondhand from ICU nurses, they're saying it's not as bad as what is being promoted on the media. So I don't know. I mean, I just don't know. I think this constant bombardment of fear, shut down everything, shut down all the economy because of COVID. First of all, again, at 66% of it, or I said 66, 2/3, round numbers, I think it's 65 something, is 18 to 44-year-olds. And yes, they're sick, but most of them aren't being even hospitalized. So it's back and forth. I've been dealing with it all day, and that's the big thing. I think it's hurting our social fabric, our finances, our relationships. It's hurting our minds, our peace. I mean, and I'm not in that quadrant. Okay, my mind's hurt or my peace is hurt. My mind is on the Lord, and I'm very much at peace. I'm not even worried about it. But I think it's hurting that 80% that's not living for God or whatever it may be. And I don't want to but I think anyway.
Let's hear from a few people in the comment section. What do y'all think? We went from flatten the curve to open everything back up, and then now we're seeing a surge. How'd that make you feel? What do you think about that? Is that something that you're adjusting to easily now that we've kind of gone through some of this already? Are you anxious to get out of it? Is it no big deal? Have you been wearing a mask already and now it's, this mandatory mask thing? Has that changed anything in your life? So
do they
why don't
feel
you
like
let
it's
us know?
Legitimate?
Yeah.
Is it legitimate? Are they telling us the truth? I mean, is it as scary as what the media is portraying it to be?
And one question I should start a video with one day is, has your trust in government changed in the last 6 months to a year?
Or trust in media.
Trust in media, exactly. So have you changed? When you look at stats now, people can lie with stats. They can be biased with stats. There's things that we have to be careful with. And so have you considered those things? Or have you been a skeptic? do you question very many things, or are you just accepting everything as it comes from single sources? So something
I
to
think I want to throw this in there, and I think this is very important. I'm a very practical person, and I'm trying to be. I'm spiritual in a sense, but I'm also practical in a sense. So I don't know how that. As a pastor, it's hard for me to be that way. But my
I
point
think
is
as
this:
a pastor, that would be your job.
well,
Maintaining
maybe.
the
I don't,
balance between spiritual and practicality. If you're all spiritual, you wouldn't be a very good
Yeah.
pastor.
That's true. I never really thought about it
All
like that.
practical,
But anyway,
you'd be failing as well.
yeah, and maybe anyway. Okay, so my question is, I think that we have to be careful of being cynical about the things that are going on, because I do literally 100%. I believe it is number one of God, fulfillment of prophecy,
Right.
and if that's the case, if that fits into that Matthew 24, 7, 8, 9, whatever it is in there, I believe this could be, and I believe it is, the beginning of sorrows. So if we're cynical about it, we won't recognize what's happening. And somebody might have already said I'm very cynical, but I just don't. I believe that the media is hyping it, but I do believe it's a very real aspect of our day that we have to be aware of.
Right.
And we can't be like that cynic, and that's what I look at it as, that says, "Oh, where's the coming of the Lord? We've been sitting here since the grandfather's life. They've been saying he's coming." That's nothing. I think that's very dangerous.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think news right now, and for the past probably 15, 20 years, everything has to be breaking news. And if there is no
Yes.
breaking news, then they will create breaking news, whatever it takes. You went from a news hour to a 24-hour news program. So sadly, we have brought ourselves to this point where we have to have something to break up our day and awe the people and wow everybody. So
It's all
I think
about the money.
with that being there, I think it's very easy to fall prey to the tactics.
Yeah, I think it's about the money, and they've
Jeff
got
Baggs, shock value. That's right.
Yeah, exactly, and that's the two words, shock and value. It really does fit that scenario, but it's obvious. It's obvious we are in a pandemic, but I think it's partially fear driven, and maybe that's good. Maybe people will repent. Maybe people will, go back to gardening. Maybe people will do things that, be more around their family. Maybe it's all good, but I think the value or really it's not the right word. I think the fear and the lack of peace and the underlying animosity among people, I think that's also a factor that's not healthy. And I really wish that Christians especially could see this for what it is, back up, see the big picture, relax, realize that the Lord is coming, that this is the beginning of sorrows.
Right.
And I saw a scripture, somebody else posted it, and I wish I'd have wrote it down. Oh man, it was in Psalms, I think, or maybe Proverbs, and it said something to the effect that if you can't handle this small problem, how are you going to handle the big one? It's kind of like the one, and I believe it's Ecclesiastes. No, it's not Ecclesiastes. Where's it at? How can you run with the footman if you can't keep up with the horseman?
Yes. I just saw we have Charles from Uganda with us tonight. Charles, good to see you. I know it's probably morning time over there. We love you, man.
Yes. Wow. That's cool. Good to have him on. It's good to have all of you on, by the way.
Oh, yes. Beverly
But,
Smith, I understand what you're saying. She says, I almost feel like healthcare has worsened. I went to the doctor for severe headaches, and she goes on, and it basically ends with, felt her time and money were wasted. And I think that comes also down, if we're not careful, comes also to hospital ethics and things like that, because some of the strains that come with this kind of situation, well, we've seen Baylor Scott and White and other hospitals who have had to lay off. They've had to let people go because financial situations. There are strains, whether that be their low census or staff shortages, things like that. And this is going to happen in every workplace, really, I think. Go ahead,
Yeah,
Pastor.
I think one of the things that we've seen you just said it about ethics. I think we're seeing a decaying of ethics for many, many years in general. And that's driven by our Supreme Court choices or decisions, driven by our perverted political system. I mean, and I'm not saying that all politicians are perverted, but I'm just saying half of our politicians are, man, there's some strange cookies in there. But anyway,
Oh, yeah.
point is, I think we're seeing that decaying of ethics become more rapid, especially, and if anybody that studied criminal science or criminal justice, you know that when things get bad, financially or the underlying government or culture underlying the society begins to decay, people, it's the old phrase, when things get tough get going. They get to doing things, and the
Right.
mean, those that don't have ethics begin to do things that are improper, and that happens. And I don't think that I have not one doctor in mind, but I have recently talked to multiple people. Of course, as a pastor, I talk to people all the time about it, that they go to the doctor and the doctor is not even really concerned with them. That's an ethical issue. It's not moral, but it's an ethical issue. You took an oath, the Hippocratic oath. Is that right? Hippocratic oath? Anyway, you took an oath to care for these people. And like Beverly Smith said, she goes for a problem and they don't hardly hear her, and it's all about COVID. It's not a good thing. It's not a good scenario. And I think our ethical fiber of our society is really being tested right now. And
Right.
It's not just America. I think Charles over in Uganda could probably attest to problems over there as well. It's everywhere.
Right. And times like this reveal issues. People don't all of a sudden become bad people. They don't all of a sudden lose their morals.
No.
But sadly, it starts as a young person, and this is the time where we've got to raise our children right. We've got to teach them these things. Even in an environment
Yeah.
like this is no excuse to lose your ethics. So
I've been dumbfounded by how many young, I'm going to call them crowds, but I really think of them as packs, like wolf packs. Man,
Mobs.
I don't know. Mob, that's probably more a PC word, but man, it blows my mind to see how many of these young people are gathered in a mob, and then they'll go in and wipe out a store or beat somebody to death. I mean, it's crazy. I saw a video. I saved pictures of it on my phone. I think it was a 15-year-old girl, and they wanted her shoes, and they beat that little girl to a pulp.
right.
And it was like 12 boys that beat a 15-year-old girl. That's our ethical failings being revealed. Like you said,
Right.
It doesn't make us. Times like this doesn't make us. It reveals us.
That's true. Very, very true. All
So,
right. Anything else you want to talk about tonight?
Oh my goodness, yes. I got several things. First of all, I saw something today, and I tried to go back and find it. Unfortunately, I saw it when I was not supposed to see it. Anyway, I saw something today about our seniors and their money, and it prompted some thoughts in my mind that I really think would benefit any of our people from, say, 40 and above right now, especially. And I say 40, it really could benefit every age. But one of the things that for years, when I was a young man, I started investing when I was like 12 years old. A.L. Williams, if anybody remember A.L. Williams, invest in mutual funds and buy term policy and invest the difference. That's what it was. So I started investing as very young, 10, 12 years old. And they was telling us back then, put 3 to 6% of your money into retirement. And they always said, and then you've got Social Security. You've got Social Security. Well, now,
Can we count on that?
COLA, no, number one, you can't count on Social Security to be here. And even those seniors that are in the audience tonight that have Social Security or drawing Social Security, you're beginning to realize that it's just not enough. So now we realize, what can we do? What can a senior do. And this kind of comes to my mind. Recently, I had a conversation with a older lady, and she doesn't go to our church, so nobody can look and say, "Oh, I know who they're talking about," because they don't. In fact, I would say nobody knows who I'm talking about. They contacted me in distress and was talking about they're on their own, they're by themselves, and they have nobody to help them. And I spent like an hour on the phone with this person, and come to find out, they spent all of their middle age and younger years, even when they had children, only concerned about themselves. They didn't live their life. And I know this kind of sounds like a sermon, but I'm telling you, this is crazy. They didn't live their life concerned about anybody else. And guess what? At the end of their life, nobody's concerned about them. And
Right.
this lady is bawling and crying, and her, I wished I could have wrote it down, but she said something that's profound. I'm just telling you, if you don't live by grace and have mercy and help other people and care for your children, now I think she said she was married 3 or 4 times. I forgot now. Her children have nothing to do with her because it was all about her, and she realizes it now, and it's too late. And so I began to put these things together, and I don't want to captivate the audience or captivate our conversation. I know that Social Security is not enough, and I know that you can't go back. I mean, you can't just prepare again, prepare again. Can't do that. But so how do you deal with it? And the thought that I had, and I think it's something that we need to get input on too. How can you overcome not being prepared, not having retirement and only having Social Security, not having enough? And in my opinion, of course, I'm only 51, getting ready to be 52, by the way. But I think the things you need to do is make sure you have those relationships of people that you care for them, and you create a bond where they care for you. I think that's critical. And it's not just in the financial aspect, but I think because of maybe COVID, maybe something else that comes along after COVID, we need each other.
And you're
And I
not
think it's
talking
important.
about getting a sugar daddy or somebody at the last minute, or somebody that'll provide for them, right?
No, don't do that. I didn't
Okay.
even think
Building
of that. That's
relationships, these things
Yeah.
take time.
funny. Yeah. Yeah, that's hilarious. No, I didn't think of that. Sure didn't. Man, probably should have.
How convenient. Retire.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I think you just have to live graciously. And you've got to, of course, there's all the physical things you can do. Oh, I'm going to garden. I'm going to live frugal. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And that's all well and good. But I really think that, if you have, I'm hesitant to say some of these things because it's very important. And I want to do this, not just talk about it. It's very important that we live graciously, that we help other people when we can, that we bless other people when we can. Don't be selfish, because it will come back and bite you.
Right. It always comes back around one way or another.
So
yeah.
that's a topic. That's my topic. That's my thought. I've got a lot of things doing, but I really think that I would like to ask everybody, how can you begin again? How can you prepare again? You're at the mercy, and the answer is you can't. Okay. But you might have, the audience here might have other ideas, but I think you can garden, you can learn to trade, fruits and things, and you can learn to trade your talent that you picked up as a child. I'm a kind of a hybrid person, and I'm rambling a little bit, but I'm a hybrid person. I was born in the mechanical analog age, but I'm living most of my life. Yeah, so far, I'll have most of my life in the digital age. There's a lot of things. I grew up with an encyclopedia, and I'm living with the internet. So I think there's some value in my younger years, in my encyclopedia days. There's some value in my, mechanical and analog days. that I can give to the digital age. And I think our elders can do the same thing. I think it's something that we all need to learn.
Right. And I think all of that comes back to personal resiliency. And for some reason, while you're talking, I'm thinking of what would be, say I'm young, I'm 29, and even for me, what would be a bounce back plan? How would I get back if I lost everything, if I didn't have a way of necessarily surviving, I guess, and feeding the family and all that, lose your job, lose your home, lose all, because this is basically what some people are, when they get to the retirement age, are at. They no longer have a career. They're trying to find a place that's going to be suitable, or a place that they can live affordable, things like that. So I think those things are worth talking about and worth considering for sure.
Yeah, I think we have in our audience, we have a few people here that, and I'm not thinking of anybody in particular, but I'm just assuming in an audience our size, we have a few people that have that struggle is very real in their life right now. And I would say for you, my real advice is live graciously, because you might have a job right now, and you might have put up some money for retirement or some money for, in savings, whatever it may be. But I really think that you need to live as if you're going to have friends one day. Right. And the best thing to do is be friendly. Like
Connect
I said, live graciously. Yeah, oh, man.
My mom made the comment, connect with your church family is a good way to have a community. Man,
yes.
Especially as you get older, or any time there's change in your life, having some kind of community that's going to be there to support you. Wow. You can't replace it. You really can't.
And there's no community like the church, period.
Right.
There's no community like the
brothers,
church. And
sisters.
I'm not talking about, right. I'm not talking about mega churches where you show up, nobody knows you. I'm talking about personal accountability, and that, you are connected to them, they're connected to you, and it's a win-win. And then I'm not saying like
mutual investment.
We both win.
Right.
I think it's huge. People don't, and the sad thing, like I said, that conversation I had, and that was about a month and a half or two ago, probably 2 months ago now, maybe 3, in fact.
Right.
But that blew my mind, and she recognized it as we talked. She recognized I lived my life either caring only about myself or offended in what other people did, and now I have nobody. I was like, oh wow. And I tried to tell her, I tried to help her. I don't know.
Yeah.
We're not talking about 38 special and 12 gauge shotguns right now, but it's very important.
Right. And Charles put in here, church determines a lot about keeping people ethical. Attaching yourself to the church, whether your local church, a place where you go repeatedly. You show up. You make a pattern in your life of I'm going to be there no matter what, whether I get offended, whether I lose my job, whatever thing comes my way. Connecting yourself to the church family is very, very vital. Beverly Smith, especially this church. I love it. Yep.
I love her. One of the reasons why this came to my mind recently, or yesterday, actually I'm trying to think. Today's Tuesday. It was probably Friday. It came to my mind, and I wrote it down on Sunday or Monday. I get these phone calls, so-and-so, this is, and I'm not calling names. This happened to me. And I'm telling you, I'm seeing an uptick in unethical behavior and just selfishness and greediness. And it's going to get worse. I think you need to surround yourself with people that you care for and they care for. They care for you.
I agree.
100%. It could get to the days, I remember, and my mom, if she's on here, I don't think she is, but I'll tell you what, I remember some personal family members of mine that were so frugal when they didn't have to be. Okay, I'm not trying to be rude, but they didn't have to be this frugal. But we made jokes. They would wash a paper plate to reuse it, the next day. That was how frugal they were. They really were. They were super frugal. And I think sometimes, since we don't see the future, these are people that went through, in my mind, I might be wrong a little bit, but I think they went through the Depression. I think they did. They might have been small, but they were born in the, the early teens. And so they were 10, 12, 14 years old going through the Depression, and they realized the value of frugality. And I think that we don't see what's coming up in the future. And they were being frugal when they didn't have to be. I think we need to be friendly and kind and live graciously when we don't have to be.
Right. I agree. And I would think many people watching this agree. This is something that I think it also has to be intentional. If we're not careful,
Yes.
we can go about our lives and be very selfish and not know that we're being selfish. But we have to be very intentional in our methods of connecting with people, creating relationships. Charles on here, I love it. He's in Uganda now. He mentioned that we were in Iraq together 10 years ago. It's hard to believe that was 10 years ago. But the relationship that we built there, who knows? Maybe I'll go to Uganda one day, have somebody that works for the police department who's higher up, and he will be there for me. So these relationships.
I plan on it. I plan on going. I would love to do that.
Me too.
So, hey, let's get back. And we've been like in this deep, topic. Let's get back to the guns real quick. Did anybody ever say, I said the guns. Did I say guns? I did say guns. I meant to say self-defense. Because the reason why I brought that back up is this. Hang on one second. Oh, I remember. I'm not going to say their names. I was talking to someone recently about them taking a self-defense course and getting their concealed carry handgun license, and about that big around, and my phrase to them was, guns, weapons in general are simply equalizers. That's all. They're just a tool to make the big man smaller and the little girl bigger. That's all it is. And I think when we look at the ethics and the morality of our world, what we're talking about coming up, and I'm not a doomsday guy, and Ethan, you know me as well as anybody, but I believe that we are going steadily, no matter who's in the office. I'm talking about the White House. I think we are steadily headed towards a very, very bad time in America.
So with that in mind, Jeff Baggs made a comment, said, so with the uptick of civil unrest, this is kind of on what you were talking about, the mob mentality and general breakdown in society, what inning? Because I know when we started all this back in March, you used the illustration of like a baseball inning, 9 innings or whatever, in the progression. It may start with a pandemic, but then we obviously see a psychological issues as one part of that inning, and maybe civil unrest. And now we're seeing this progress. Where would you say we're at?
I'm going to say at the beginning of the 4th inning. And the reason why, let me go back for those of you that just joined us and you didn't hear me say this 3-4 months ago, 5 months ago. Man, it's been that long? April? No, March, April, May, June. Wow, it's pretty close. 5 months. Okay, so this is what I'm thinking. First inning was the virus in China and other places. Second inning, it was here. Third inning was the panic that came with that.
Right.
And I'm talking about the financial panic and the mental panic. And that's where we're at, where we've been. But now, in the last week or two, we've seen that turn from panic to anger, fear, manic, crazy, whatever you call it. There's a lot of different probably phrases you could. So I think we're in the beginning of that 4th inning. And I think that I know that sounds crazy, and I'm not a prophet, but I think that concerning COVID-19, we're not even halfway through.
And I would say
I think that
part of this is also, and where we're at right now, people are choosing their community. They're choosing which side, which group they're going to identify with. And that's pretty scary, because people feel like, and this has happened throughout eternity, I'm sure, where people feel like they have to have belonging in some kind of group, and many people have not felt that. So now they feel like more than ever, they need a community. And we see that. They're taking a cause. They're taking an effort to join some group of people, whatever side that is. They're owning up to that community, whatever group. Mm-hmm. And I think people are realizing, even those who are not spiritual are realizing they need a group. They need relationship. They need friends. They need people that are going to be allies. And this is a word that's been used recently. Allies, people on their team, things like that. And so we're seeing it play out. And I think that's part of the inning we're in, determining who's on your team.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think you brought something up to my mind. A few days ago, I went in Dollar General, and I love Dollar General, by the way. Anyway, I went in Dollar General, and there was a lady in front of me, and she was probably about my age. I'm not going to tell you what she looked like or anything like that, but she was buying cigarettes. And I saw her, and she expressed kind of not an anger, but it's like a frustration. Yeah, give me another pack. I just can't seem to quit, something like that. And I thought in my mind, I'm sitting there watching this process, and it took forever to get her change and all that kind of stuff. And I'm watching this process, and in my mind, I'm thinking, at what age, what was going on in her life that she felt the influence, the outside
pressure,
influence,
right,
the peer pressure to choose to smoke. And that's really, you're immature, most of the time you're immature, and you don't realize you're going to be addicted the rest of your life, and you're going to have all these problems that come along with it. And I think that you're talking about right now, we're choosing our tribes. Really, you better choose wisely, because it's going to get worse before it gets better.
Yeah. And are you going to be on a side that's got an eternal mind? That's looking for a future beyond this. So that's the best place to be. It's the most optimistic. It's the least anxiety-ridden side. It's the one that's not in fear of every little thing. And I think the pandemic, even 2 months from now, may seem small to what we may be going through. That's just something to think about, something to consider.
Well, like I said, the scripture, and I don't have my Bible with me. I don't know where it's at. In fact, it's over there. Matthew says this is the beginning of sorrows. And if you can't deal with the beginning, what are you going to do about the later part, the harder part? And it's going to get harder. And again, I'm no prophet, but I can see the fig tree is budding, and we better get our lives and our minds wrapped around this thing sooner rather than later, and prepare our lives for when we really need help. We have it. We're not just flipping about our friends and flipping about everything else. We've got to be sincere
intentional
now.
Right.
Yes, in order to build that future that we need.
Determine your priorities.
Right.
Determine your values.
That's right.
You have to determine that. You can't just float along like you have been, or many people have been, their whole life. They're floating wherever, kind of like a pinball machine, wherever the bumper hits them, We've got to determine what we count as valuable, what we count as a priority. Do we really believe that the church, being the church, active in the church, is a priority? Well, we're going to be put to the test. We're experiencing that now.
Yep.
So do we back out, or do we step up?
That's good. Wow. That's very important. I think another thing that is kind of distracting people, I'm going to say this in a way that I hope is not offensive to anybody listening, but I think us arguing about it's a real pandemic or it's not, it's a conspiracy or it's not, I think we're missing a great opportunity and not concentrating on the fact that it is, first of all, in the plan of God. Second of all, it's unfolding right along with the Bible. There's more things coming. So I think we're wasting our time and our mental energy on things that don't matter. The fact is the whole world is messed up right now because of COVID-19, whether it's a conspiracy or not, doesn't matter.
Right.
I think we're wasting time. Rephrase it. We need to concentrate on things that matter.
Right. And we'd have to define the issue. Is the pandemic the issue? If that's the issue, then that's all we're going to focus on. That's all we're going to pray about. Then really, what's the purpose of the church? We've got to recognize the actual issues of lost people not being saved through this, and basically being the church, being active as the church. So we've got to recognize the actual issue.
Let me throw this out there and I put it in here just as a last minute scripture because I just had it on my mind and it I don't know, didn't know why then, but I think I know why now. One of the things that I think that we've got to be very aware of is not everybody's a scammer, not everybody's unethical.
Right.
And if you choose the right perspective of society and the right perspective of your peer group and choose which peer group you belong to, what tribe you belong to, you're going to make better decisions. And if you do that, the earlier you do that, the more intentional you become, the better your decisions and the better your future. But the scripture that came to mind, and earlier today, Matthew 25 talks about he judges. The king says unto them on the right hand, come ye blessed of my Father, inherit the kingdom of prepared for you from the foundation of the world. It says, for I was hungry and you gave me meat. I was thirsty, you gave me drink. I was a stranger and you took me in. And they're like, I was naked, you clothed me. I was sick, you visited me. I was in prison, you came unto me. And they're like, what are you talking about? We never saw you like that. We never, we're talking about the Lord. We never saw you like that.
Yeah.
But he literally said, inasmuch as you have done it unto one of the least of these, my brethren, you have done it unto me. Not everybody's
right. Don't be so skeptical that you can't help somebody.
Right. That's what I'm trying to get to.
Right.
Took the words out of my mouth a lot better than I could say it. No, it's good. You're on the top of your game tonight. This is awesome. I love it. I think you're doing great. But I think we've got to make those choices early on. And I use the word tribe, and I think that's pretty close. What tribe am I going to belong to?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Group identity is what I think Stephanie Coppinger defined it as.
Yeah. And if we don't choose early, if we don't choose properly and we don't choose early, we're going to be caught up in the fear and caught up in the who is my friend, who can I turn to?
Right.
It's just I tell parents, and I pastor in a college town, and we're always having college students come, and I tell them up front, listen, I realize you're sending your child to a town that they don't know anybody yet, but they're fixing to learn a lot. They're getting ready to know a lot of people, and not everybody's good. But I want you to know, and I want them to know, if you have a problem, you call me, because I'm here to help your child not just survive, but to thrive in college.
Right.
And I've had that happen a few times. That is a huge comfort to the family, the parents, that when they bring their kid to college and they hear me say that, they're like, oh, this takes a huge burden off our mind. And I'm thankful for that. But we need that same type of rapport with our friends, with our family, with those that we care for.
Yeah, and I would say that that's just their response is usually a combination of prior exposure, whatever experiences they've had. If they were a free-range child where the child was able to make their own decisions and learn from those bad decisions, good decisions, plus that combined with what you're talking about here, a voice of reason, a voice of wisdom, a peer group, a community that's able to be there and have some positive peer pressure involved.
Yeah. I think Leslie Gay. Leslie, I think you hit on something very important. Now, how much time we got? 15 minutes. Okay. So you said, I think the problem with the team mentality, and you said team, I said tribe, and that's, some people, it's like pack, like I said. You said, is that people do not know the background of those teams that they join and unfortunately become stuck. That is true. You get in with a certain group of people in high school and in ninth grade, and you're stuck with them through 12th grade. Hard to break out of that. Same thing in life in general. But the beautiful thing about that, the beautiful thing about the church is, and we've got them, you can look at our church and say, ooh, used to be a knucklehead, I mean, even me, I used to be a knucklehead. And I tell people that. The beautiful thing about the church is you can change packs. You can get out of whatever you were in, get into the church, and you're going to be okay. We're going to help you be okay. That's the beautiful thing about the church. So anyway, I think you hit the nail on the head.
I would also add to that is, and this is commenting on Jonathan Murphy's comment here, is that I struggle with skepticism. I think many of us do. I want to help, but I don't want to get taken advantage of. This is a reality for all of us. And I think this is something where, as apostolics, we're an apostolic church, we have the ability to utilize the discernment given to us by the Spirit of God. And so while we could look at the news and become very skeptical, we can, and I've fallen prey to this myself. You look at the news and all we see is someone being taken advantage of, someone being beaten, somebody's car being broken into while they're in it. All these things because they didn't stop in the road or they didn't stand for this movement or that movement, whatever it may be. We get very skeptical. I'm just not going to go there anymore. I'm not going to go here or there. I'm not going to help anybody. I'm not going to do it because I'm going to be taken advantage of. If I give them the money, they're going to use it on drugs, whatever it is. But I think we have the advantage of discernment. and that's something that we've got to pray for. And we've got to, especially as the times get worse.
Yeah. Hey, let me tell you a quick story, and I don't want to change this topic too much because it's on the same topic. I was sitting in my office, this back about a year ago, and I'm in my office. I'm driving at that point, I was driving a 98 Toyota T100 truck, 1998. Little old truck. Love it, love it, love it. Anyway, sitting in my office, and somebody keeps honking outside, and I'm thinking, man, it's the middle of the day. Walk out there, and this guy in this, this newer, I don't know what year model, but a newer red 4 extended cab truck, and he's sitting out there honking, and I open the door, and he keeps doing this to me, come here, come here. So I walk out there. I'm like, yeah. He goes, hey man, I'm driving through, and I need gas money, and I need some help. And I'm like, man, he sat there and honked at me and all this kind of stuff, and I don't like that kind of stuff. So anyway, I'm like, you know what? I went through my wallet. I think I gave him $20. Okay, see you later. Wasn't a few days later, maybe a week later, I can't remember. Sitting in my office, and guess what? Honking. I'm like, oh, it's that same guy. I walk out there, and he's got, and the second time I'm more attentive. He's got cigarettes all along the front of his dash, and he's got his cell phone sitting up there. Hey, just coming back through, wanted to see if you got any money. I said, listen, buddy. I said, you see that truck? That's mine. You got a newer truck than me. I don't smoke. Your cell phone is just as good as mine. Get out of here. I don't know if that was discernment or aggravation.
Wisdom in the moment.
Yeah. Man, that made me mad. So, yeah, okay. Yeah, we've got discernment. Sorry. We got discernment. We also have tools.
Right.
And one of the things that I've done is instead of giving to all these different causes, this is personal. You do what you want to. I quit giving to all these different causes. I just couldn't, like whoever said, Jonathan Murphy, I think you said that. I give to the church. And the church, I know for a fact, gives to missionaries, gives to missions programs, gives to orphanages, gives to all kinds of programs, and I don't have to worry about it. So that's the way I look at it.
And I would also say, and I'm speaking from understanding of where pastors been, and me too. I know both of us have been taken advantage of numerous times. I remember as a kid, Dad started the church here in College Station, and I remember as a kid, we had a fence. The first house we moved at, that fence had been rebuilt, I don't know, or started being built probably 3 times, maybe more.
Yeah.
Because there were men that would say, we need some money. Dad, okay, yeah, I'll give you a little job. Why don't you start building this fence? And they start the fence, and they get a day into it, and they need a little money just to get started or whatever. And, the next day they're gone. Or I remember as a kid seeing man after man, Dad, you know what? I'm going to give him a job. He's going to do it. He's going to do it. Well, and then tools are stolen, and then this is stolen.
Yep.
And I don't think that's forgotten. I don't think it's for naught. I don't think he blew his money away, No. But I think those many times were seeds planted, and I think that God sees exactly what happened. And while we can count that as being taken advantage of, God can see that as faithfulness. It's just another aspect.
For those of you that are asked, hey, I need money for fuel, or I need money for diapers or whatever, and I've got to hurry because I got one more topic. This is the way you handle that. You need gas? Let me take you down there right now, and I will get you the gas. You need diapers? I will take you right now, and we will buy the diapers. Show me the child.
Yeah.
Show me the need. If it's legitimate, and I have had recently, I've had this happen recently, and I give all the time. I mean, I'm constantly trying to help people. Recently, somebody said, we need help. We need this, that, and the other. I said, give me your mother's name and her phone number, and I think it was an aunt's name and number. And they didn't even know their names and numbers and stuff. And I'm like, yeah, here you go.
Yeah.
They didn't want to get that. You've got to prove these things. So anyway, I'll stop there. That's the way you fix it.
Last topic of the night. Let's hear it.
All right. So I said it earlier, and I'm going to probably, this is a debatable topic. Self-defense. I'm going back to guns.
Okay.
Sticks, self-defense. Used to it with sticks and stones. You had to be close and you had to be accurate. It was not, I mean, you could say, yeah, it was an equalizer, but typically the bigger person was always going to take care of or take advantage of the smaller one, no matter what they had. Sticks, then we came out with mace and tasers, but I say we came out with, that was later, but guns, you don't have to be close and you don't have to be accurate. And if you're a little person and you have no ability to defend yourself, a gun is the great equalizer. And we have seen recently, in fact, did you just put that up on the screen, that picture recently? They tore down the fence of a family and would have done more, but the man and the woman walked outside with a gun, and it changed the conversation. Everybody began to chant and holler at them, but they didn't go any farther on their property, So let's talk quickly. There is a difference, and I'm only going to say this in general. There's a lot of scriptures that we could talk about, but there is a difference between murder and self-defense. Or if you look at it like this, offense and defense. There's a big difference. Yeah, there's your picture. I realize that Jesus said, turn the other cheek. He was talking in the context of that. He's talking about personal offense, things that, we're not talking about deadly threats. We're talking about just being offended. Turn the other cheek. But in Luke chapter 22 and verse 36, I believe that I don't believe we're supposed to be total pacifists when it comes to defending ourselves. And I'm hoping to bring comfort to the minds of some people that are watching us. In Luke chapter 22 and verse 36, Jesus told his disciples, if you don't have a sword, sell your cloak and go buy one. There's some things that are more valuable. And right now, you need a weapon. You need a tool. You need a defense weapon, not a coat. You need a defense weapon. So there's value there. A little while later, when he's in the garden, he's getting ready to be taken to the palace and judged. Obviously, Peter pulled out a sword, aimed at the guy's head, missed him, hit his ear. And Jesus said, put your sword up. If you live by the sword, you die by the sword. He's talking about in an offensive manner. And then he says, this has to be fulfilled. It's prophecy. So there's different aspects. It's not so simple as, well, murder, you're killing somebody. It's not that simple. It's very complex, and there are actually college classes. In fact, there's probably degrees on this stuff. But I think what we need to recognize is, and this is just the end of our topic for tonight, I think we need to recognize there's many ways to defend ourselves. Many ways. Like you said, money can be a defense. Look, if you want my money, if that's all it's going to take, if I give you my money, that's it. Here you go. You can have my money. That's a defense. Paul used his citizenship as a defense. Before you flog me, literally is what he said. Before you try to beat me, I'm a Roman citizen. They stopped because his defense was good enough. Matching, though, you're going to have to realize you're going to have to match the world's offense with your defense. I have heard, and I have no doubt it works, there have been people that cried out in the name of Jesus, I rebuke you in the name of Jesus, and you've got to leave, and they've left. If that's the path you choose, God help you, and so be it, and I pray it happens and it works. But, and I said, but I probably shouldn't have said that. And if you choose a pistol, choose the biggest one you can get that you don't have to aim too good. And that's why I said the Tarsh Judge, because it shoots shotgun shells. Anyway, so that's just my thought. Y'all pour it on me now. Tell me what you think.
No, I'm obviously with you. I'm your son, so I was raised that way.
Yeah.
No,
yeah.
We've got to be ready. I think just as we must be good stewards over our money, our finances, the things we've been given, we've also been given our family. We've been given people. As a man, I've been given my daughter, my wife, and I will protect them. And that is me being a good steward, taking care of them the best way I can.
Well, and what if you don't take care of yourself?
Right.
Then your wife and children are left without you.
How good am I? Right.
That's right. So I think it all comes to bear. This is the thing. The Bible never forbids self-defense. It never comes out and says you can't defend yourself. And I think we've got to be very careful. And the reason why I kept coming up with that today is because we live in peculiar times, perilous times. Men are lovers of their own selves and nobody else. And I think, and literally the reason why I brought it up is I'm warning this audience, you need to be more diligent, intentional, and careful, because and I might be wrong, but I think we're at the beginning of the fourth inning, and I believe it's going to get worse before it gets better.
Right. I agree. Be careful where you go. There's some places not worth going to. Some areas. Situational awareness. This is something you learn in the military. Yeah. Being aware. Comes down to reading the news, understanding what's going on in your community, where you're at, where you're going to go vacation at. There's some places I'm not going to go vacation to right now.
That's right.
It just wouldn't make sense. It's quite stupid, to be
right.
honest.
That's right.
But
another thing that people are doing nowadays is they're selling stuff online. If you have something you're going to sell, you meet them in the parking lot of the police station or in the parking lot of a bank that has a guard there. Don't meet them in the dark of night in Central Park. My goodness.
Right.
I'm telling you, you just got to be more intentionally wise. Anyway, I don't want to end on a bad note, but I'm just telling you, we're in a situation where you need to be aware of where you're at. Situational awareness.
Yes, I agree. I love the comments tonight. Thank you all for commenting along the way. I know there's always a few comments after we're done. And right now, Stephanie Coppinger said, ladies, if you carry on your person and not in your purse. It's safer, faster, more expedient. That's correct. I know recently a lot of the ladies in the church did some, license to carry classes. And so I think that's a great way to advance your knowledge and preparedness. Go ahead, Pastor.
Hey, look at Christopher Daniel here. I like
Exodus
guns.
22.
Okay, Exodus 20. It was Exodus 22 and 2 through 3.
Right.
That was earlier. Yeah. If a thief is caught breaking in after dark and is struck by the owner so that he dies, there shall be no blood guilt for him. For if the sun has risen, there shall be blood guilt for him. Now, this is back in the sticks and stones day, okay? And I don't think people were as crazy. I don't know if that's the right word, but I don't think people were as crazy, mad, literally out of their head. The thief, if he lives, must make full restitution. If he has nothing, then he shall be sold as a slave, make restitution for himself. Exactly. So anyway, there you go.
All right. Well, I think that's all for tonight. Good discussion. Very good. As always, if you're watching this now and you have something that popped up on your mind, you have something this week that maybe sparks your attention, you read an article, please forward that to us because we want to see it. We want to talk about it. We want to keep up with the issues that are happening now. We're not going to talk necessarily too much about the past and relish on the past of how life used to be, but we want to talk about what we can do now to stay prepared
and in the future,
safe, but also ready to meet God. We want to be ready so that we can be with Him in the end. So thank you again for joining us. This is Tuesday night, 8 o'clock we start. So next week, let's do the same thing. Bring us some comments. Bring us some ideas. We want to talk about it. I hope you have a great night, and God bless.